Well, this is the extended breastfeeding workshop, and we're really going to focus in on gentle toddler nursing and weaning. And surprisingly, there's actually a lot of groups within there that I differentiate kind of on a regular basis or help people navigate. So we're going to kind of hit some highlights today. I don't want to say it's surface level at all, but I'm not being able to like deep dive any one particular area. Rather, depending on where you are with regard to how old your child is and where you are in the nursing journey, hopefully this will be really informative for you. I'd like to start with some introductions, and you can do that either again by in the chat or if you want to unmute and share. But really quick, I just maybe your name and how long you've been nursing, and maybe one word to describe the current state of your nursing journey.
I'll go.
Okay.
So I'm Sierra. I've been nursing for 2 years now. I can say that. And I say one word to describe it is ongoing. So I'm not overexhausted, but I'm not like just ongoing. just I can't
Yes.
even describe it.
And you just hit 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge milestone. There's the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics that all say now, along with the World Health Organization, that up to 2 years and beyond should be encouraged. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, around that when that changed, and this like feeling of pressure as moms to be like, oh, great, now we have to go a whole extra year. But that's not really what it was for. It was more to make sure that pediatricians and caregivers weren't dissuading or trying to push weaning before that time because there are a lot of benefits to it. But now that you've hit that mark, you might find that you're hearing and feeling more pressures to wean from, strangers on the street. Everyone seems to have an opinion. All right. Who else? And again, you can just put this in the chat as well. If how long you've been nursing and a word. So Alyssa, I've been nursing my son for 18 months now, and I describe our journey as special, comforting, and enjoyable for both of us. I love that. We are in the slow weaning process now. Awesome. Anyone else want to share?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm Ashley, and I've been nursing for just under a year, about 11 and a half months. And I want to use one word, and that's sentimental, but it's challenging to use one word because I'm in this. She's almost a year. She's eating solids for 3 meals, and so I'm feeling a transition. We're in like a transitional phase as far as like the slow weaning process. So yeah, sentimental and then also transitional.
I love that. Is Tanya here?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Tanya. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So my daughter, she's my first nursing and pumping since the beginning. So just recently she kind of started refusing the bottle. So recently I've just been nursing again, which it's been a while, and I was actually trying to get back to nursing. So I guess I'm happy with that. But it is a little challenging because she's more like mobile now.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel
So
like
how old is she?
She's 11 months.
Okay.
So similar to Ashley's, I think. Yeah, so I feel like, I was pumping and bottle feeding during the day and then nursing at night. And then just recently I switched back. She wanted to nurse, which I'm happy about, but I'm kind of like relearning that. So I
Yeah.
guess it's been a journey and I guess curious how it's going to be as she gets older and like food is involved, and I'm still nursing her a lot to sleep. Sleep has been challenging. So yeah, I'm interested to see what information you're going to share with us.
Wonderful. Okay, and Roisin, is that how you say it? Are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi. We're
Hi.
just going with introductions. If you want to tell us how long you've been nursing and one word that maybe describes your current state of your nursing relationship.
My little guy is now 19 months, so probably maybe older than some of the other people that have shared. And sorry, what else am I meant to?
Just a word that describes the current state of nursing.
Okay, I would say I'm trying to wean, but yeah, I've kind of relied on it as a way to kind of soothe and calm my little
Mhm.
guy down, particularly at night, but also he's also kind of gotten used to that, first thing in the morning, I nurse him and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. So I almost find recently he's been requesting feeding more. So I'm finding like, okay, I'm meant to be weaning. I want to wean down now, and it's like actually getting more. So just
Mhm.
looking for some tips. Yeah.
Love that. No, I think you're like smack in the middle. You're right around where everyone else is. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That really gives me context and helps me kind of know where you are at. Practically speaking, like what you said, like introducing food still, versus those of you who are more solidly in the toddler years and getting to more the demanding stage of toddler nursing. I want to share a little bit about myself as well. So I want to start with a story. And this is going to be set the stage June 2017. And we were coming up on a year of nursing. So right around where, especially Ashley and Tanya, where you are. And at the time, this was before the guidelines were switched. And so they were still encouraging up to a year and beyond. But I felt this pressure to wean. And we had this is Avery, by the way, this is my oldest daughter and my extended nurser. But at the time, we had struggled so much in the beginning of our nursing journey with latching and oversupply and mastitis and all the things, so much pain, but we overcame it. And my initial goal was 6 months, and we got there. And so I was like, okay, let's do a year. And when we were coming up on a year, it was finally feeling like easier. And I remember going to a doula group and sitting there and crying because I I thought I had to quit. I thought it was time to wean. And this one mom very calmly just was like, then don't stop. Like, if you don't want to stop, don't stop. And it was kind of this revelation. I didn't really think of that was an option. And so I decided to wean from the pump during the day and then just sorry, I'm letting some people in here. And just let my milk dry up and kind of let her lead. And I figured it would be a couple more months. Well, my body regulated and I was able to consistently nurse her when we were together and not when I was away. And that went on for until we hit 2 years. And then I got pregnant again, and we nursed through part of my pregnancy. And it's very common in that situation because of hormone fluctuations for the milk to dry up. But I still wasn't done. And so I told her the milk would come back with the baby and decided I was going to tandem nurse. And we did. I relatched her. And we did that for 4 months, tandem nursing, until my second, Luca, decided to wean, self-wean, cold turkey, very different experience. And then I became a pumping and nursing mama for another year. So we weaned at 4.5 years. And I know that for some might sound wild, but it's really actually not that uncommon. What is uncommon is to talk about it, that a lot of times There's a phrase I use called closet nursing, where the older your child gets, there's less social acceptability. And so you end up isolated and struggling a lot of the time because you are starting to have those demanding experiences or not sure what to do and not knowing anyone else around you. So that's why I'm here today. I'm here to bring you together so you can find other people and get information so you can wean when you want and keep going if you want. So my hope for you today is to leave with information to feel empowered in knowledge and support on your nursing journey. And at 2 years old, Avery said something. She said, "Milk is love." And it really stuck with me because I knew she loved milk. I knew she loved mama milk, but it was more than that, that for her, milk truly was love. But then I felt this added pressure because if milk is love, does she feel like I'm taking away love if I wean? And that really, I struggled with that a lot. So I want you to, as we go through the rest of the presentation, to really take this context of milk is love, and everything I create is based on in keeping that love, even when the milk goes away. So in today's lecture, we're going to discuss first, is extended nursing right for me? So this is really for Ashley and Tanya or anyone else, Lena, Rachel, Natalie, if any of you are just hitting that 1 year mark and entering the toddler phase, is it right for you? Then we will talk about how do I know it's time to wean? So a lot of you are here for this. Then we will talk about what's different about gentle weaning as a construct. And how does it differ from other ways you've maybe more commonly heard about weaning? What comes next after this seminar for you? And we'll finish up with a Q&A, and I am totally free, however long you want to stay, I'm open for you. And as a bonus, for those of you who stay till the end of the presentation, I have a free guide for you. It's the 5 breastfeeding boundaries to use with your toddler. And as we'll get to later in the presentation, boundaries are a really, really important part of toddler nursing because without it, you can get burnt out pretty quickly. So these are really great places to start. As I said in the very beginning, I have a lot of stuff, so I'm going to kind of be zooming through. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat, but I will probably come back to them at that end Q&A. Or if you want to take notes, you're more than welcome to do that as well. But before I start, are there any questions just kind of right off the bat before I start? Okay. Oh, in the chat. Okay. No questions. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, well, let's get started. So I got ahead of myself here. So is extended nursing right for me? There's really only 2 main criteria here that you need to answer. And if it's yes to both, then you're good. The first is your child wants to keep nursing, because contrary to popular opinion and what people think, especially with older kids, you cannot make a child keep breastfeeding longer than they want to. When they're done, they're done. And it usually doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does. I did have that experience. It's jarring, but most of the time it's a gradual process. They get distracted. They prefer to do other things. Sometimes this can happen before we're ready. So the second criteria is that we want to keep nursing, or you want to keep nursing. And it can feel really hard when we have this kind of mental goalpost in our mind of how long we want to nurse. And if they want to end first, it can be hard. But just know that the other way around is important too. Like if they want to keep nursing and you don't, then that is an important time to reconsider, the extended nursing process and if weaning is the better option for you. I have an analogy of extended nursing like a partner dance. Like I always think of like a ballroom partnership. And, in the first year, they're in charge. They're leading the relationship, right? We're trained to listen to every sound. We're told if they're crying, we've waited too long, that we need to meet all, their needs through milk. And that whether that's comfort or hunger or sleep. And what starts to happen, not right at a year, right? Like this is going to be a few months, give or take, depending on your kiddo, but it needs to start to shift. And you have to start taking a bit more of the lead back. And we'll talk more later about what that looks like, but it can be uncomfortable. And if you can imagine two partners are dancing, and if one's used to leading and the other one all of a sudden starts to take the lead, you might be stepping on some toes. There might be frustration, especially if you have never led before, right? If this is your first child, if you haven't nursed before, you're both doing this for the first time. Let's talk about a few barriers to extended nursing that I think are important to just bring up, just lay out there. And maybe those of you who are a little further along, if you maybe want to jump in the chat and just say if you have experienced these. The first is outside pressure to wean. You're still breastfeeding. You get this on like day 366, right? It's like this magical number that all of a sudden you're supposed to be done. Sorry, Natalie, will it be available if I need to skip out? Yeah, just jump back in. And there's also going to be a recording if you aren't able to come back. Good luck with bedtime. All right. Have any of you had this yet? Are you still breastfeeding? Yes, all of you. Yeah, a lot of yeses. It's very frustrating, and it does, like, you either get defensive or you don't really quite know what to say or do. So a very common thing is either to get confrontational if that's your personality, or to avoid, right? We stop telling people, we stop sharing about it because we just don't want to hear it. There's also partner stressors, and sometimes these come out of a good place, but what I often see is you are usually the one doing bedtime and nap time and all the things, right? Upsets, and especially if your kid is a little bit older and strong-willed, you might be in the household where it's, I don't want dada, I want mama, right? Once they get a little more vocal and can tell you what they want very directly. And so some partners start to see breastfeeding as the problem, and they start to think, well, if you're not nursing, then I can help more. And so they might start to encourage you to wean so they can help. But in reality, that isn't always going to make it the problem better. It's sometimes going to make it worse because then it takes away one of your most important tools to help with bedtime and all of the other things. And so I can't go into much more detail about this, but just know there are other important ways, just like in the beginning of nursing, right? Like, I don't know about you, but we had this expectation of the 50-50 partnership. The partner will be up at night with me. And then it clearly becomes like, well, that makes no sense because then everyone's exhausted. And well, you're not going to do bottles because then I'm up pumping. And so they have to help in other ways. They feed us and we feed the baby, and they do the dishes if you're, fortunate enough to have a partner who's that involved. But those types of things can start to come into play as your child gets older. Internal pressures to keep going. Let's see in the chat here. Okay. So there's often feelings of guilt. I mean, that's just motherhood, unfortunately, right? But feeling guilty to wean if your child starts still wants to keep going. So if you feel like you want to wean, but your child, milk is love, right? Like your child loves it so much, it can be really hard to continue down that path, especially if the only ways that you have been told to do it seem very harsh, and not loving for your child and respectful of your child. Sorry, I keep moving my mouse too much. So type me if you felt this way before, if you felt guilty for wanting to wean or maybe even trying and having it kind of backfire on you. Rachel says me. Alyssa, Taryn. Yeah, very common. And I also really, I want you to see that. I want you to see that you're not alone in that. And these are really common feelings for extended nursers to have. So now let's look at some pros and cons of extended nursing. There are many continued health benefits. The milk doesn't magically just stop being nutritious. If anything, our bodies are so amazing. One of my favorite breastfeeding facts. So when I was tandem nursing, I read that my body, depending on if the newborn or the toddler were nursing, my body could tell and would produce different milk depending on which child was nursing. And that just blew my mind. It was really fantastic. And so depending on the needs of the child, and obviously it's immune system boosting, but the proteins, fats, everything is still so valuable. And it doesn't mean if you wean that you're losing out on it all. Also, I really want to make clear that I am not advocate breastfeeding no matter what. I'm advocate healthy relationship and mental health for mom and baby. So it doesn't do a baby good to have a mom who's on the verge of a mental breakdown, and you are better off weaning and having an improved relationship with your child and giving them an alternative milk. Some other pros. It's important to keep going if they're slow to transition to food. I forget who mentioned that. Someone said that their child was still kind of getting on board with solids. And so it's really beneficial to keep going, even if it's just a few months until that integration of multiple meals a day and a couple snacks start to happen, so that you can start to wean and know that they have that supplement of nutrition. It's a very, very valuable parenting tool. There were many times where it was my go-to for most everything. Like, you're hungry, you're tired, boob. You're hurt, boob. You're whining, boob. You're annoying me, boob. You're sick, boob. So it can really solve so many issues and problems that face parents in the toddler years. And it can be an emotional regulator, not just for them, but for you. And this, especially if you get overstimulated very easily, this you can come to really rely on this. And so it can help you quiet your child so that you feel calmer. But also, obviously, if they're having a really big upset, and you need them to kind of come back to a calmer state of mind, then it's magical. It's fun to talk with your child about milk. This is one of my favorites too. Like I said, I asked Avery, or she said milk is love, but I would always ask her what it tasted like, and was so proud the first time I asked her and she said vegetables. I was like, yes, I did something right. But by the end, she was like a protein bar. And so you can tell that my own diet slid there at the end. Cons. Sustained use of your body to comfort and feed your child can be a lot, right? Like, it's that mentality of like, it's a mind shift from I'm the only one that can do this to, oh my God, I'm the only one who can do this. And it can become a burden. And so that doesn't, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that in and of itself, it doesn't necessarily mean it's time to wean. But it does probably mean that it's time to have some boundary setting put in place to make it manageable. Over-reliance on nursing to solve upsets. So it's the yin and the yang of the emotional regulator, that if you come to over-rely on nursing to solve all those upsets, or if you are uncomfortable hearing your child upset and so use nursing to calm them down, that can really become a struggle when you try to wean. And if you don't have any other parenting tools besides that to help navigate these really common toddler problems. So another con is often bedtime and night wakes or wake ups are only you. Oh, I'm also actually curious, will you put in the chat just me if you are co-sleeping? That's another, I didn't really put anything about that in this presentation, but it's super common. And another thing that people kind of don't want to admit, but it's totally common. Uh-huh. And so again, I want you to know that you're not alone in that. I really wish we would get to a point of not terrifying moms about sleeping. Natalie, yay, proudly a co-sleeper. I never did it with Avery. Well, one, she just never took to it, but I still co-sleep with Luca, who's 4.5 years, even though actually I started with nursing, and I was like, why have I not been doing this the whole time? And the snuggles are fantastic. But again, the cons of that are a lot of the burden is on you. And last, another con is more difficult to be separated from your child for extended periods. Day to day, it is easier, I would say, than the first year because you can wean from the pump and you can go like a full day away from your child eventually and not feel engorged. But you can't really go like a weekend away or a week away for work without either pumping or, preparing your child for that. So in that way, I always think of the Taylor Swift song, Invisible String. Like it's always that tether, right? That connects us to our child. Okay, before I start part 2, can you jump in the chat and just say like, are you connecting with what I've been saying so far? Are you relating to it? Does it feel accurate to you? Awesome. 100% Ashley says, perfect. All right. So then moving on to part 2, how do I know it's time to wean? This is such a loaded question, right? And I'm going to answer it using something I've created based on talking to dozens and probably hundreds at this point of moms who have nursed beyond a year. And that's the emotional cycle of the extended breastfeeding mom. To start the cycle, we usually start in the in love phase. It's the empowerment phase. It's where we feel like we're like superwoman, right? Like we didn't just carry this child and grow this child. We have nourished this being for an entire year on our own milk. Like I am amazing, right? You feel connected to your child. And it's just the best. Like, I really don't know if there is any other like magical natural high you can have because of the oxytocin and the snuggles as being so in love with your child during nursing. And for those of you who are at like 11 and 11 and a half, 12 months, Sierra, you tell me like, I loved toddler nursing so much more than the first year. Like it just kept getting better. It was not 100% happiness all the time, but having toddler snuggles they're just the best when they start like caressing your face like you do them, and it's just the best. But we can't usually stay there forever. And as we tip over, we come into the next stage, which is the resentful stage. Resentful nursing sucks. And I'm very sorry if some of you have already been there or have experienced this, but this usually comes with exhaustion. And it usually comes, can you let me know, can you see my arrow, my cursor when I'm moving on the screen? Oh, bird. Perfect. Okay. When you're tipping over, it's usually when they start getting more demanding. They say, like they start yelling for it, they start pulling on your shirt, they are hitting your chest, they're doing it in public, maybe, and you're feeling less comfortable with that. So resentful nursing often comes when you are doing on-demand nursing without boundaries. And my favorite quote that I've ever heard from this stage is someone said, I feel like an exhausted snack bar. And it was so perfectly said because it just felt like my boobs were out all the time and like this body isn't mine anymore. And I just felt like a cow. And my compassion for cows, it has changed tremendously based on my experience being a nursing mom. So what often happens, this is usually when people come find me, but they don't find me here. They find me down here when they're at their wits' end and they're done. And I can always tell when someone's here because they're upset and they want it done now. And they're really just, the irritation level is very clear. But what happens when you get here and you decide now it's time to wean? Well, usually it kind of backfires. Your child gets more upset. You start feeling that guilt, right? Come in. But also there's sometimes fear about, oh my God, is this what life is going to be like without the milk? Because you now know what you've been tolerating the demandingness, but is it just going to be never ending tantrums if the milk goes away? Like, how are you going to fix this? And then you start to get nostalgic. You start thinking about that in love phase and maybe getting a little sad and like going, am I really ready for it to be over? Maybe I can do it a little longer. And you kind of swing back, you convince yourself to go back into the in love phase. So let me know, does that resonate with anyone? Sierra, Rachel, yes, yes. What stage would you say that you're in right now, ladies? Story of my life, says Taryn. Oh no. And the thing about this is this can go on a weekly, on a daily basis. You can swing through this cycle every nursing session. You could talk yourself into this. And that is exhausting, right? That's not fun. That's not fair. And so my goal is to help you get out of this. And so I'm going to kind of answer a different second question first, and then come back to the original question. So Sierra's guilty and in love stage back and forth. Rachel, resentful, guilty with my toddler, and in love with my baby. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's a whole other story. Like nursing 1 versus 2. Oh, night and day, right? Like nursing a baby with a toddler is a lot. So you're doing a lot there. So the question I'm going to answer first is, when should you not wean? And I don't think, and don't suggest, I should say, you wean here, which is where everyone wants to wean when you're burnt out. That isn't going to set you up for success. You're not in the right mindset for that. Rather, I really encourage people to try to notice when they're tipping into resentment, because we wait, right? We wait and we deal and we just stack on all of the frustrations and hold it in and then explode. So when is it potentially a time to wean? I wouldn't, again, say it's not a reaction. It's not like, uh-oh, I'm getting resentful, I must wean. This is the time for boundaries. So that's the second time I've said boundaries. We're going to say it at least 2 more times throughout this presentation. But when people come to me and say, I need help weaning, and they say they're calm, like they say it very calmly, And I ask them, are you ready to have your last nursing session? And I can see it in their faces, and they hold their breath, and there are tears. And it's still very emotional, but a very different, powerful emotion. And it's grief. And that is unfortunately something all of you will go through. And I really want to be upfront with that, because part of the weaning process is grief. It's heavy, it's hard. And that is also something I help you go through, because doing it alone is really, really hard. But having tools and resources and support makes it easier. So to answer that in a long-winded way, you wean when you're ready and not burn out. That's the key. Part 3, what's different about gentle weaning? All right. Most common weaning suggestions, and let me know if you've heard these. The most common is self-weaning, right? And maybe that's what your current goal is. That was mine, right? Like I was like, oh, we'll just keep going until she's done. And I expected that to be like 18 months, not 4 years, right? This is actually continued on-demand nursing. And there is nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not burnt out. So going back to the analogy, this is your child leading the dance. And so you're letting them guide how often they're nursing, the where, the when, and how long, all of that. They're kind of on demand of that. And then this can take longer than expected, but it totally works if you're happy with it. It's just hard when you start to get frustrated, because usually you start to complain to someone, a partner, your parent, a friend who weaned much earlier. If you say anything negative about it, they pounce on you and say, oh, you should wean. And usually the suggestion is just quit, just stop. Why don't you just stop, right? How many of you have been told that? Like, easier said than done. Why don't you tell my boob monster to just be done, right? Yeah. Cold turkey quit doesn't really work out very well. It can be very emotionally difficult for both you and them. And it can cause physical difficulties, especially for those of you who are still nursing a lot. I never recommend that, because you can get like all of the annoying things that from the beginning stages come back. Mastitis, clogged ducts, engorgement. So like if you hear people talking about like just like tighten your boobs, or like put the band around, like don't do that to yourself. Like that is so not necessary. And doesn't often work, because you end up going back. It doesn't stick, is the biggest problem. Another really common suggestion I hear from people is people say to go away for a long weekend. I had a client who did go away from her 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old, and like out of the country to visit family. And her whole family was like, this is it. You can totally wean him. He won't remember when you get back. It'll be done. And we had been working very in depth together for several months. And I kind of just knew her well enough to be like, is that what you want? Does that feel good to you? Like, she wasn't at the crying stage. She seemed very calm. And I was like, something's not right here. And finally she was just like, no, I'm not really ready for that. She was like, I don't want to go back to all the time, but I still want it for bedtime. And I'm just not ready for that to be over. And I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be. But then also like she had that realization before coming home. And then when she got home, that kid was glued to her, right? And milk, 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 milk. They don't forget. And I think it's really disrespectful of your child to assume that they would. Like it might work with a younger infant, but a toddler, milk is love, right? They're not going to forget over a weekend. To dig into this a little bit more, let's talk about reactionary versus gentle weaning. Reactionary is beginning the weaning process out of frustration and burnout. It's done without a plan. You say, I'm done, and you just kind of try to muscle through, right? And just say no, and we're gonna just make this work. And the upset's usually pretty intense with that. It often backfires due to attempts at stopping cold turkey, leaving you more overwhelmed and your toddler in tears. Is this an experience any of you have had yet? Never quite yet. Okay. So gentle weaning is having a prepared plan to replace nursing with new forms of connection. So you wean the milk, not the love. This is the missing part of so much of the conversation, that you as a parent need to learn new parenting tools, and your child needs to learn that milk isn't the only way that they can connect with you. And an example of not that I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me think of how I want to phrase this. An example with like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old that you could do, maybe less so at a year, because they're probably not talking very much. But you could ask, if they're asking for milk, you can say, oh, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Or do you want mama? And just starting to ask that question can help you learn and help them differentiate the reasons why they want milk. And as they get older, you can start to say, like, if they say, I want mama, you can replace the milk and say, like, oh, it's not time for milk, but let's go snuggle and read a book, right? Like, you want to show them that when there isn't milk, you're still there. Because up until now, especially those of you who are right at the year mark, they may get a bottle with milk, but most of the time, if you're not there, milk is gone too, right? It kind of comes and goes together. And so you want to show them that just because you're saying no to milk doesn't mean that you're saying no to them. Weaning is seen as a process, not an event. So you have your last nursing session, and that is an event. But the weaning process is very slow, and all of you actually are currently in it. But once you start introducing foods, that's the beginning of weaning. And very slowly, very surely, over time, you will slowly drop feeds. You've already probably dropped several, right? None of you are probably nursing as much as you did in the first month. But other things will impact this process as they eat more food, as they drop naps. All of that influences the weaning process. And again, wanting to take the lead in the process and move away from on-demand nursing can be slow and steady as well, and usually works better over the course of time and not as a one-time deal. Gentle weaning is small, gradual changes over time that will make everyone happier and lead to greater weaning success the first time. So let me know, because I'm going to switch now a little bit, because a big part of my education has actually turned to gentle parenting, because as I said, you need to learn the parenting tools to replace milk with and gain confidence in using them with your child. So type yes in the chat if you knew there were 4 parts to gentle parenting. Kira says no. Rachel, Ashley, no. It's not very common answer. Yeah, most people don't know this. I didn't know this for a long time. But it's one of the reasons why I really like gentle parenting and applying it, because there are concrete things to apply, and we'll get there in just a minute. Type yay in the chat if you like the idea of gentle parenting. I'm kind of guessing you do if you came to this lecture tonight, but it's not for everyone. Let's see here. Yay, Rachel, Alyssa, Sierra. Yeah, Lena, perfect. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name. I read them quickly. Yay, okay. Everyone's on board. We love gentle parenting. But type psi if you struggle to even actually know what gentle parenting is. Like, it sounds great. How the heck do I do that? Sierra, psi. Rachel, psi. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of this elusive thing, positive parenting. And Tanya Sai. Yeah, there are podcasts and books, and I don't know, some of them I find very frustrating because I just feel like they tell you're it's not the philosophy, you're just kind of not doing it right. And it's like, well, but I don't understand how that works. So you were very much in the norm with this. I have a quiz that I give extended nursers, and 63.2% respondents said, I love the idea of gentle parenting, but kind of don't know what I'm doing. So you're in good company. And I think a lot of you from your prior answers feel like you can relate. So who created gentle parenting? This wonderful woman, Sarah Ockwell Smith, is a mother of four, the founder of Gentle Parenting Movement. So she coined the term. She has written 14 books on the subject. Like, I don't know how she has 4 kids and managed to write 14 books, but she is pretty amazing. So this content and these philosophies come from her. And she developed the 4 pillars of gentle parenting, which are empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries. And this is why, to remind you, and if those of you who missed the beginning, if you stick around to the end and you get the free handout, this is why this aligns, because what we do is apply gentle parenting techniques to breastfeeding. I don't have time to go deep into these, but hopefully you kind of know what they are to start with. I think the biggest one is the boundaries, because I think people misunderstand gentle parenting to be permissive parenting, and meaning like their kids kind of get more control, right? It's like all or nothing. And that's when we kind of whiplash back and forth and can't seem to find the middle ground. So kind of going into that, reflect on this, how you might have been raised. Were you raised in an authoritarian, a do as I say kind of family, maybe a permissive family, like kind of do what you want, kind of latchkey kid kind of situation, or the authoritative, gentle, positive, respectful parenting. So if you were raised in a gentle parenting household, you may be just trying to mimic what you learned, and that would be pretty easy for you to do. But for those of us who are raised differently and we're trying to do it different, that can be a big struggle, especially if we're kind of like we're winging it and kind of really not knowing what we're doing. The journey versus the finish line. Your breastfeeding journey is more important than the final destination. How you reach your goals becomes your postpartum experience. And how do you want the memory of breastfeeding to make you feel? Do you want to remember the burnout and the frustration and tears, theirs and yours? Or do you want to remember those sweet snuggles, right? And the love. So putting it all together, gentle parenting works when there is mutual respect for both your and your child's needs. I really want to emphasize that, because it's not just about respecting your child. It's making sure that your child, as they grow into toddlers, learn to respect you. One of the things I used to say to Avery when she would hit me, like being angry because I wasn't giving her milk fast enough or any of that stuff, I would say, I don't share my body with people who hit me, and would follow through and would not nurse at that time. And I hope that that was the beginning of instilling for her how other people should treat her body. Loving boundaries are key to reduce permissive parenting, and which leads to on-demand nursing. Permissive parenting does. Self-care is vital so you can help your child get through their big upsets. All right. So tell me, do you want a method of weaning that is gradual, loving, respectful of the time you and your child have to spend together nursing? Type yes in the chat if that's what you came here for. Awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I want to share another story with you. This one starts on March 14th, 2020. And this was the first full day of lockdown. Avery was 3.5 and Luca was 9 months. And I had only been back to work for 8 weeks after being off for 7 months. And overnight, we both ended up home, like so many others, both home working from the same bedroom with very little childcare. And I was pumping still 4 times a day, nursing 3 times a day, and solo co-sleeping at night. And it was very unmanageable. And we did it for 8 weeks until the semester ended. Oh, by the way, I didn't share this about myself. I was an instructor, a college instructor prior to COVID. Never intended to leave until this happened. And in June, I knew at that point that we were not going to have our childcare reopen because it was on campus and our campus wasn't opening again. And I knew I couldn't do this long term. And so I really saw 3 options. It was either my sanity, my marriage, or my job. And weirdly, maybe enough, nursing wasn't something I thought and felt I could give up because one, weaning was really difficult for me and uncomfortable. And also I was taking away the parenting tool that was allowing me to survive. So I quit my job and became a full-time stay-at-home mom. So that was June 2020. Avery turned 4, Luca turned 1. And between that and September 15th, 2020, we had an amazing time together. But in that time, which felt like a long time, but really was just a short few months, I weaned from the pump. And ultimately, that really set me up to have a dip in supply. And my nursing journey with Avery quickly was coming to an end. And that really hit hard. It hit hard and it was a lonely time because I didn't know any other extended nursers and I left the bedroom crying. And knew in that moment that I needed and wanted to help others because I didn't know how I could just stop and with all of the knowledge and experience I had and not give back. And that is what got me here today. So why I share this is for a couple of reasons, because choosing self-care is a courageous decision for a mother to make. We often don't do it. And learning new parenting skills to use alongside nursing will help make the transition through weaning easier. I wish I had a lecture like this. I created what I wish I had had, and which would have made my life a lot easier. So, can you commit to the idea of gentle weaning? Does this sound good to you? Let me know in the chat. Yes, okay. Does it make you, are you a little excited about it? Does it feel, maybe to differentiate, put like, I don't know, yay, that this is something that you can do. It doesn't have to be harsh. It doesn't have to be cold turkey. Great. All right. So what comes next? If I have your permission, or do I have your permission to share with you a program I have? Because again, I wish I could share more. It's already 9. But do I have your permission to share with you a course I have that could teach you more about how to do gentle weaning in the next, upcoming weeks as you get to the end of your nursing journey? All right, Rachel, Sierra, yes. Taryn, awesome. Okay. So I would love to introduce you to the Gentle Toddler Weaning Method. It is my online course on demand, Keeping the Love When the Milk Goes Away. Approaching toddler nursing with loving boundaries and gentle weaning. Are you ready to solve the daily cycle of being touched out and feeling helpless in your nursing relationship? You don't have to necessarily put this in the chat, you can, but just reflect on these questions as we go. Are you ready to see the beauty in the quiet nursing moments with your toddler again, especially if you're struggling? Because I know some of you may be in that space. And those of you who haven't gotten there yet, my hope is that you won't. You don't have to get there. Are you ready to not feel physically demanded of all the time? Do you want to keep the bond without the burnout? And if you have enjoyed this seminar, I know you're going to love this course. It's different because I don't know about you, but there's no real formal support that I have found of nursing beyond a year. I've literally found 2 other people talking about this on Instagram. And so it's a really important need. Has this been your experience? Have you been able to find anyone else really talking about this? Yeah, no one else. Also problematic is lactation help primarily focuses on the first year, and then you're just kind of done. And same, I have one person on IG. Yeah. Breastfeeding mentor. Yep. Angie has resources. Absolutely. She's one of the 2 and she's fantastic. Lactation. I have a local, a friend who's an IBCLC, like a lactation consultant at a local hospital. She said they don't take patients beyond 6 weeks because they're so backed up. So if you're trying to come in with a 2-year-old who's struggling, they're going to look at you and be like, no, we can't help you. And also, parenting experts are great, but they don't specifically focus on the extended nursing relationship. And that's why I'm trying to bring both of these together. And I'm filling the gap with the Gentle Toddler Weaning course to fully address the toddler nursing relationship so that you and your child thrive. So imagine not waking up to your shirt being pulled down. And for those of you who haven't lived this yet, I promise you, one day it will happen, and you just need to know in the moment, all right, well, now we need to set some boundaries. Fewer tantrums when you attempt to tell them no, and not giving in to the tantrum and nursing because you don't know what else to do. Support for a breastfeeding relationship that works for both of you. And imagine enjoying breastfeeding again if you are struggling. So let's break it down. There are 5 modules, and this is 2 hours of content. You can watch or listen. It's also, each section is broken down into smaller segments. So each of them is edited to be manageable and watch in short snippets. I use the Kajabi app, which I love this app. If you've done Big Little Feelings courses, or a lot of places, you may already have this app, but why I love it is you can actually close it and just listen podcast style to it, and not just have it open like a YouTube video. And I always find that really, really helpful while I'm, doing every other thing and not sitting and watching a course, but listening to it. And so to break it down, section 1 is how to stay connected when the milk goes away, then setting and holding breastfeeding boundaries. Section 3 is night weaning. Section 4 is dropping feeds. And section 5 is all the feelings, yours and them, or theirs. And for bonuses, I have my weaning story, and I don't just talk about it, like I briefly shared it here, but I go in much more depth. But I also talk about what I wish I had done differently and what I would encourage you to do to make it a celebration and not just, done. That's what's hard a lot of the times. It's like, it just doesn't feel, right to just one day be done. You have a resource list with links to suggested items and other resources like videos, and content to help with the parenting side and more. And you have access to a private Facebook community with other moms who have been through this to share your struggles and your successes with us. So if you know this is for you, please go to nursingmamas.com /gentle weaning course. You can also, hopefully the thing works. Please let me know if it works. The QR code, and I can also put it in the chat in a second for you to link to. Some reviews. So one is, where can I leave a review or testimonial? I love when people ask me that. Amazing success with weaning. We sent Milky's to the moon last night, and this evening went so smooth when I reminded him and gave him a surprise present, but only asked 2 times and no fuss. And on the right, this is Megan, and she definitely, it was a journey for her. And I was so proud of her when she posted this. I just want to share that my 3.5-year-old is officially weaned. I'm so grateful for the support I've received from the extended breastfeeding community. The journey has been rough at times, but I'm happy to be at this point. My son will occasionally ask for milk, but is easily redirected. I never thought I would be able to celebrate weaning happily until I attended the workshop. It really helped me to recognize the importance of showing patience and compassion, not only for my child, but for myself. What does it cost, right? Let's get down to the question I know you all have. And it's just a one-time payment, $79, immediate access to the course and to the Facebook group. And I have a little extra bonus for you, being the Fit4Mom group. I have a coupon code. So if you purchase the course by next Friday, so January 26th, you will get $10 off at checkout. And what that will look like is, this is what the checkout looks like. You'll see $79. You put Fit4Mom in the coupon code, and you'll see the amount due deducts the $10. So again, if this is something you are interested in, please go to nursingmamas.com /gentle weaning course. And if my computer would let me do this, there we go. I'll enter it into the chat right now. All right. Would someone mind clicking it just to make sure I didn't misspell it and it actually takes you where you're supposed to go? I always mean to copy and paste and I forget. Okay, so this is for you if you think you may be ready to wean in the next 6 months or so, but have no idea where to start. It works. Perfect. Thank you, Sierra. It certainly can apply if you are further away from that. Like those of you who are at 11, 12 months, you may be ready to wean. Like if your goal is by 18 months, this can absolutely be applicable to you. But if you are thinking you want to keep going, like 6 months is a little soon, I do have other programs that might be more appropriate for you. You are burnt out by on-demand toddler nursing. Totally for you. You feel isolated and alone. And you don't know how to parent without the boob. So if this is you, if you're saying yes, 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 checking the boxes, then this course literally was made for you. This is not for you if you want to or need to wean within a matter of weeks. And by need, I don't mean like I'm burnt out, I'm done. I mean, you have maybe a medical reason, like you are going to be on medication and have to stop nursing. You're going to be away for an extended amount of time unexpectedly. This may, you can certainly apply gentle parenting and weaning, but you may need more guidance to do it quicker. So again, you can talk to me directly, DM me, message me, and I can help guide you more on that. Your child is under 12 months. And so that if it's under 12 months and you're here and you are looking to wean, I have another course that's dedicated to weaning under one, because there are just different factors involved there, especially with the food and making sure that we're supplementing appropriately, depending on what their needs are. You aren't ready to wean, right? Maybe this course simply isn't for you. If you've been listening to this presentation and the idea of weaning just gives you like heart palpitations and you're just not there. Again, I have another course that teaches gentle parenting and really deep dives the boundary process without necessarily getting to the finish line. This course is about getting to the finish line. You aren't interested in learning about gentle parenting. Maybe that isn't for you. I think most of you said yes, but it's not for everyone. It doesn't work for every child. It's not for you if you think weaning should happen without upset. And let me explain this a little bit. This is not cry it out by any means, but we have to get comfortable as parents with our children's big emotions, because our job changes after the first year of stopping the big upset and becomes helping them learn how to get through the big upset. That's difficult to do when we weren't taught how to do that, right? A lot of my parenting journey has become learning how to self-regulate myself so I can help self-regulate them. But if you don't want your child to cry at all, then this may not be a method for you. So if you do think it's for you, go to nursingmamas.com/gentle weaning course to read more about it. I have another bonus for you. So if you purchase the course by next Friday, the 26th, you will also get the free handout. So I say this, those of you who are still in the room, you are getting this either way. But for those of you who might be watching the recording and missed out on getting it during the live presentation, if you purchase the course by the 26th, you get the handout as well. So who's in? Is anyone sitting here nodding your head thinking like, all right, this is for me. I want to join the community? Also, let me know if you're on the fence and you're a maybe. All right. Maybe I want to, but not to. Like you're not sure if you're ready. Is that what you mean, Sierra? And Taryn, I'm a maybe. I'm so ready to wean, but nervous. Yes. Okay. I want to make sure like I'm clear. Like buying this course does not mean that you're going to be weaning anytime indefinitely soon. There is no timetable in the course. I actually very specifically don't guarantee a timeline. You can do it within, I would say 2 to 3 months is a pretty solid, like if you were like ready to be done and want to be done. But if you are just looking for ways, like, remember, it's a process, it's a journey and a process, it's not an event. So if you are looking for ways to make it more manageable, to slow down, to cut out some nursing sessions, to make night nursing more manageable, you will get all of those resources in here. And then when you're ready, you can go to those last modules about how do you celebrate it? How do you make it a positive experience for both of you? Let's see, Taryn, the setting boundaries, I am so ready for. Yeah. And it's hard to do alone, especially if you've never done it before. And they're pushing back on you. Okay. I'm going to finish, and thank you so much for being so patient with me. I'm going to finish just sharing, this is my family now. We are nearing 3.5 years post nursing. And when I was crying out of that room, I was so scared. I was so scared of what weaning meant for our relationship. I was worried, if I'm being brutally honest, I was worried that I wouldn't be special anymore. I was worried that I wouldn't be that person, that go to, that magical thing that I had that no one else had. I thought when that went away, who would I be? Like I'm almost getting like verklempt thinking about it or saying it. Are any of you like, does that raise some emotions for any of you hearing that? Do you feel that way, that fear? Yeah. Um, so what I want to share though is even though that fear was there, our relationship is still so beautiful. And there are nights where she asks me to put her to sleep, Avery does, and she will lay in the same position that she used to nurse in, wrapped around my body, and go to sleep immediately. Like that foundation that you are creating with your child will stay there and it will blossom into such a beautiful relationship with your children. And start the love and respect that you want to see as they grow. And eventually, inevitably, all children will wean. And you know my hope is that this information that you've been provided today will enable you to have the confidence to know that after the milk goes away, the love will still be there. Okay, so what are some takeaways from the seminar? You can type it, or if you want to come off mute, what was your top takeaway from the seminar? I'll wait just a second because I know you may need a moment to think about it. Milk is love. Aw. I love that idea. Which, Sierra, what idea are you talking about? The importance of boundaries as we enter toddlerhood phase. Yeah. And I'm just going to bring it up, boundaries also. Um, since it sounds like a lot of you, like I brought this course to the seminar because it sounded like a lot of you were interested in weaning, but this also happens a lot too, where that I need to wean, but when it really comes down to it, it starts looking kind of scary, right? And we get into that guilty, fearful phase. I'm not going to go into it now, but I do have another program called Toddler Nursing Made Easy. And that one doesn't talk about weaning, but it does deep dive the boundaries. And it also talks about parenting. It has a parenting expert, especially about strong-willed kids. We talk about food transitions, and we also have a sleep expert in that course. So if that's something that resonates with you, just message me and I can send you more info on that too. So Taryn, for me, my oldest self-weaned at 14 months, and my little one is 18 months now and still nursing constantly and just needs it more. I feel lost on how to handle it. I think that boundaries are possible and that I won't lose the love with my 18-year-old or 18, not 18-year-old, 18-month-old. Oy, it feels like that sometimes, right? Yeah, the boundary setting it can be easier said than done. So like I said, if you want more information about how to set boundaries, and I have a whole 6-step process, let me know and I can send you that information. Okay, so let's keep in touch. Let's stay connected. I believe I'm going to be getting an email list, but my email provider is kind of weird when it comes to needing your approval to send messages. So if you want to stay connected and get on my newsletter, you can go to nursingmamas.com/newsletter. I don't spam you. I try to be regular about it, but sometimes I'm not. But I just kind of give a summary of maybe what's on the blog or what's on Instagram so you don't miss anything. You can email me at Erin@nursingmamas.com. And on Instagram, I am at Erin.nursingmamas, and I would love if you followed. And if you do, DM me and let me know that you were here, and we can keep a conversation going. And we're here. Congratulations, all of you who are here currently. And Sarah, if you wouldn't mind helping write that down, who the participants are currently here. At the probably, well, it probably won't be till I get the email list because I don't have access to it right now. Once I get the email list, I will send all of you the Breastfeeding with Boundaries handout. And that leaves us with Q&A. So I'm going to actually come off of the share, and whoever wants to, I'm open depending, I know some of you maybe just want to go to bed, but if you have questions, I am here. You have free access to me. So have at it. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have a question. So I have a trip coming up at the end of March. It is about 3 full days. It's just a wedding weekend that's out of the country. And so I originally was thinking that it was imperative that I needed to, be weaned by then. I'm honestly not sure how to navigate this trip while making sure my daughter stays comfortable and happy while I'm gone, and that I'm not either tied to my pump while I'm at this, weekend away,
Yeah.
or drying up. So, what would your suggestions be?
Okay, so you have the an 11 and a half month old, right?
Yes.
So it's a little trickier there because it's, you say toddler and there's a huge spectrum. Talking to a 3-year-old is going to be very different than an 11 and a half month old. How often are you nursing or pumping right now?
Yeah, I pump once a day and I'm nursing about 5 or 6 times a day.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a lot, like realistically, especially if you're not fully ready to be done, I wouldn't suggest starting to try to wean. Um, you mentioned being tied to your pump. That you could probably try. How is she with food? Or he?
She does 3 full meals a day and she's actually great with food.
Okay. And what about sleep?
She sleeps really well. Yeah, she sleeps at least, yeah, she sleeps really well. She goes to bed around 7, wakes up, she thinks she's in a little regression right now, but typically wakes up around 6:30 and she takes 2 naps a day.
So she's a good sleeper. That's amazing. Don't talk to me.
I know. She's incredible. I don't know how we got this lucky.
If you're wanting more, be prepared for it to not be that way with the next one. They're usually opposite.
Exactly.
So okay, you're in a really good position, I think, because if she's used to you, like she's used to sleeping through the night without milk, I would suggest you could start transitioning some midday milks from that 5 to 6 nursing sessions when you're with her. You could start replacing 1 or 2 of those with snacks. Like start offering her the snack first before the milk. And that can start to reduce your milk a bit. And that way you're not nursing or pumping quite as much while you are gone. But yeah, the attempt to really cut back by March, I mean, it's doable, but is that really what you want to have happen? Like, do you want that to be the end of your nursing journey, or is it more like that's that pressure of the milestone?
I think, yeah, I don't want that to be the reason why we stop, especially if she's happy with it and if it's not negatively affecting my mental health or
Mhm.
well-being, then I don't want that to be the reason.
And since it's only 3 days, I mean, I think and let me know if this is something you're worried about. There's like that fear of like, are they going to be done when I come back? Are they going to just not want it anymore? Like, is that a concern?
Yeah, a little, but as you mentioned earlier, it's like unlikely that she'll just forget. So I do that makes complete sense, and I think the big concern is uh, that my supply will be really low when I get back, and that also um, I'm going to be leaving her almost, I don't want to say inconsolable, but just really uncomfortable and not happy. She loves, the our caretakers here if we leave her with my in-laws, but I want to make sure that I set her and them up for success as well.
Totally. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna say something that maybe others haven't said yet. I'm gonna give you permission to also not go. Like, if you want to go, perfect. But if there's like a pressure to go do this thing, you don't have to do that, right? Is she good? But I'm just putting that out there. But assuming you want to go, how is she with other forms of milk? Is she good with cow milk, or do you do that? Or
I haven't tried cow's milk yet.
so that's another alternative that you can do, is just see if she will take an alternative. And you don't have to like give her a full thing of milk. What you can start to do is just replace like an ounce at a time in a bottle.
Mhm.
So you're pumping once a day. So does she get like one bottle a day?
I know I just have a pretty big back stock.
Okay.
Yeah, freezer stash.
Okay. So does she take any bottles?
She does, but it wouldn't be it's not usually on a daily basis. Maybe like a few days a week if she'll take a bottle.
You could also start trying to introduce in another form of cup. Sometimes some kids are cool with that and have not having milk in it, and some just want water, like they get picky with that. But you can play with that idea and see if giving her the cow milk in the cup um, works for her. Because I bring that up because I guess you said you have a big stash, so this maybe isn't a problem. Is like usually a big stressor is what do you do with all the milk you're pumping when you're gone? And honestly, like at this stage of it, and it's only a few days, I would probably just pump and dump. Especially if you're going out of country, that gets really complicated with having it be, checked and all of the things. So that can also make pumping a little bit less tedious if you just kind of do it. You can even do hand expression if your body takes to that, and that can be a way of making it a little bit easier on yourself to not have like full pump sessions. And actually, now that I say that, you want to be careful because what can sometimes happen is you start pumping and it actually start increasing your supply because the pump doesn't always mimic what they intake, right? It's always kind of a guess. So you will also want to be careful to maybe just pump enough to keep you from being engorged. But you don't have to pump as many times a day for like 3 days. If you pump like 2 or 3 times and you're fine, you don't feel engorged, um, that's fine. Like you don't have to stick necessarily to the same schedule. That said, if you start getting engorged, you would want to keep up with it so you don't get mastitis.
Okay, thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
makes sense.
Anyone else? Right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join. And I really hope that this was informative for you and those of you who are watching the recording. You can reach out to me anytime. And, I'm here to answer questions. I do virtual consults. And again, I have resources and courses for you at every stage of the journey. So thank you. Thank you, Sierra. And that's all I have. There's a new message. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. All right. Going, gone. Thank you all. I will send you the recording. I might edit it a little bit and then send it over to you tomorrow.
Erin,
Yes.
hi, hi, this is Tanya. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, sorry, I was just nursing baby back to sleep, so I wasn't able to.
Oh, no problem.
I have a couple questions. Um, when you were nursing Avery, did you offer her other forms of milk, like cow's
Um,
milk, or
yeah,
when
yeah,
she was over 12 months?
yes, yeah. So she had cow milk as well. So what we ended up doing, to give an example of what it can look like, once I stopped pumping, she went to daycare. And so I would send cow milk to school instead of my milk. And she would get cow milk at the dinner table or like in maybe cereal eventually. And she nursed, it became a very kind of consistent pattern for us where it became wake up and then it was at nap time. And then if it was a school day at pickup and then bedtime. Of course, like if she um got sick or was hurt, we would add some nursing sessions in, but that's really what sustained us for a very long time was that pattern. And so it's more important though that you supplement with food than milk. Kids don't actually need to be on any other form of milk. Luca is my picky eater and has never had cow milk, didn't even like breast milk, right? Like refused it all. This kid's just bread. That's all this kid is made of.
Okay.
So it does not have to be cow milk. It can be almond milk. It can be soy, like whatever is your comfort level, but it can just be water as well. And that's totally fine too. But you can supplement with other, like just calcium building food. So yogurt or even like if you can sneak spinach into things, just find what they'll tolerate and what they'll eat, and you can get those nutritional supplements elsewhere.
And did you, when Avery was, when you did the extended breastfeeding with her, were you also co-sleeping with her? And is there a connection between like waking up through the night and nursing? Because yeah, I don't know. My baby struggles with sleep, so that's one of my questions. Is like, is it because she wakes up and wants to be comforted and wants to nurse, and that's why she keeps waking up? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And um, m- to answer the first question, I didn't co-sleep with Avery. We were in the same room. She was in not a crib. What did we had a pack and play actually. That really worked well for us for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Um, she did not sleep through the night until she was, I believe, 20 months old. And I lived in like a chair, basically with a boppy.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is another thing that's not talked about, right? Because that is deemed unacceptable. But when I
yeah,
tried co-sleeping as when she was an infant, like her head was smaller than my boob. It just didn't feel right. Like I just
yeah,
constantly felt like I was going to suffocate her or my husband was going to roll on her. And then as she got
yeah.
older and was a toddler nursing, I would try to bring her to bed and she would just like play. So it never really worked for us. But gradually she just started sleeping longer through the night. And that kind of also sustained us because I don't know that I could have kept going if she didn't sleep through the night.
Mhm.
Are you co-sleeping then? Is that why you are?
I recently started the past 2 months, and like I sleep so much better because when she wakes up, I just put her on the boob. That's like the only thing I know to calm her. And like if dad tries to come in, like she'll just scream. Like she just, yeah. And so I'm kind of like I like that the boob calms her now. We get sleep, but then I'm also worried, is this like creating a dependence that will be difficult later on?
Let's see here. So 11 months. Um, my philosophy, and I'm going to say here, I'm not a sleep expert. I have a sleep expert in my course because that is not something that I've been educated on. I basically survived the first couple years getting through the sleep situation. Um, I don't believe um that you can, how am I trying to say this? They should be dependent on you. right? She's only 11 months old,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
will, I promise you, she will sleep through the night. And um, whatever my philosophy on sleep is, whatever gets all of you the most sleep and is done safely. And that's
Yeah.
it. So if it works for you, if it's working, then that's great. But if you don't like it, and not everyone likes co-sleeping,
Hmm.
there are other options to figure out. And maybe that's not bed sharing, maybe that is having separate sleeping spaces, but being in the same room still. Like there are other ways to
Hmm.
look at it. But if you're finding you actually sleep better, then and she's getting back to sleep quicker because she has that connection, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you having
I
any like do you have like other people telling you you shouldn't be doing it?
um not necessarily. I guess, yeah, she's 11 months. I mean, I think it's just because comparison is the thief of joy, right? You hear other moms and they're like, "Oh, my baby slept through the night since 5 months," or
Oh my God. Yeah,
And so,
don't listen to them. Like it
um,
really, if it makes you feel better, my
yeah.
nephew is 12 months, like his birthday was last week. And I think that kid, she says like, my sister-in-law says that they get maybe 2 hours a night, like put together. Like this
Oh
kid really,
wow.
there, and she's co-sleeping on the floor, like all the things that we're never going to do. It's all happening, right? It's survival.
Yeah.
Um, Sierra, do you want to jump in on this? Because I know you co-sleep too, right? Like, was that something that you expected to do, or did you kind of end up there similarly?
Ends up there, on close sleep. And then I can kind of get her back into, so it's kind of like half the night and then I can put her back in the crib. But it just happens, especially with my son too. And to make you feel better, Tanya, like my son's 7 and he still gets into bed with us. So it's just, I don't know. Anybody who's like, my kid sleeps through the night at 5 months, I'm like, lies. But I mean, it happens. But it was a lot more because she would wake up so many times at night. It's just easier just to like put her to sleep like that. And I think a lot of people think it's like not common, but there's a lot of people who do. They just don't admit it.
Yes. Yeah, they just don't talk about it. And also, okay, do you sleep better when you're cuddling with someone?
Oh yeah.
Like, not just a
Yeah.
child, right? Like, I mean, I guess honesty, like I don't sleep better with my toddler because I always wake up with feet in my face, right? Because they're always horizontal. I don't know why, but I do sleep better knowing they're there and safe and they're right next to me, and we go to sleep holding hands. Like it's this cutest thing, and I'm not ready to give it up. And so I'm not, right? It works for us. Um so if you like it and it works for you, like you said, like when they're older, and actually that's another reason I don't do it. And actually to bring an extra layer into it, because we have the two kids, I think it was like day one of bringing Luca home. Avery was in her own room, and we had really made a point to transition, and Scott did bedtime, and to have this ready. But we were both in the master with Luca, and I had the sound or the monitor for Avery. And so I'm already on high alert because Luca's there. And then Avery starts yelling for us. And I was like, I can't do it. You have to go sleep with her. And literally we've done that ever since. So my husband sleeps in like, and we also did another thing where the master is like the kid room because it's bigger. And so we have two twins in there. My husband sleeps in one and Avery sleeps in another. And so if she does wake up or has a nightmare or has anything, he's on duty for her. I don't think about her at night. I should say at night to clarify that, right? And then I'm on duty for Luca. And then a couple nights a week we switch it. And I was getting frustrated with co-sleeping actually recently and was kind of saying like maybe we need to figure this out and get Luca in the twin bed, which was always the long-term idea. And my husband was sort of like, but I kind of like sleeping by myself because he gets the best sleep. But my biggest concern is that if we end up doing that, what's really going to happen is there are going to be 4 people in our bed. Like that's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Anyone who, you know, there people are so rushed to get the kid in their own room and independence. Once they're out of the crib, they're in your bed. Like that, they're walking out of their room and into your bed. So it's just what works for you. That maybe works for some people at, you know, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., having people slip in and sleep. But this works for us. There's no right answer. It's just what
Yeah.
works for your family.
Thanks for sharing, both you and Sierra.
Yeah.
Of course. It's just to put perspective. I mean, it happens. And then I look at it and it's like my son's 7. I'm like, well, he's not gonna do this when he's 14. So like when we milk it until he can, it's like once he hits like 7, he's gonna be 8 at the end of this year. It's like he's gonna not want to do this again. So I'm just like trying now. I'm like, let me just milk it up until I can.
Yeah. Well, and I come from, I mean, my own childhood experience was I was raised by a single mom and we co-slept and she didn't have a lot of money and it's so funny how things change because she put the crib in her room and the doctor like yelled at her like, "No, it needs to be in a separate room." And she was like, "What, the kitchen? Like I can't do that." And so she was doing all the things they say to do now, even though it was against what they said then. But yeah, we co-slept till I was, I think, 5. And then it became room sharing. So I had a bed in the same room. And eventually I did leave the room, right? But it's just a process. And, you know, even let's say they're 12, and they come in, if they have a bad dream, are you going to kick them out? No, you're probably going to be like, "Okay, come here." You know? And so they're that little, like for such short amount of time. And our culture is so about pushing, right? Pushing and getting through and moving on. And I hope that one of the things that came up today in the presentation, and whether it's co-sleeping, whether it's weaning or nursing, is like just there's no right or wrong to it. And just let it keep going. And people will judge you, honestly, that it will happen. But if you're confident in knowing why you're doing it, then it really doesn't matter.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Ashley? Any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions about the course. Again, the coupon code will last through next Friday. And again, I'll send out the handout probably tomorrow.
Sounds
Thank
good. Thank you
you.
again so much.
Thank you.
So nice meeting you all. I love this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.